Her mom whispered, "Sweetheart, you don't have to marry him. We can fix this." So I called off the wedding, packed my bags, and walked away. Now months later, she's standing at my door in tears, saying you were right. They never wanted me to think for myself. I'm 34. When I proposed to Emily, it felt like standing at a doorway we had built together, brick by brick. For years in Denver had given us a rhythm. Lazy Sundays. I saved for the ring quietly, cutting corners no one else would notice. When I finally put it in her hand, she cried and laughed at the same time. She said yes before I could finish the question. She hugged me so tight I had to catch my breath. For a while, the world felt open and kind. I thought the celebration would bring our families closer. I told myself people get protective, but love makes room. That was naive. From the start, her parents made it clear that I didn't fit the picture they had in their heads. I wasn't from their neighborhood. I didn't share their last name, the kind that opens doors at clubs and fundraisers. They never said it outright, but the tone in their jokes made the meaning sharp. "Let us handle the invitations," her mom said during dinner one night. "You want them to look polished." Her dad set down his glass. "No shame in waiting a few years. These things are expensive." I smiled and nodded. I told myself to pick my battles. Emily squeezed my knee under the table. On the drive home, she said they were old-fashioned and would come around. I said I believed her. I wanted to. We started touring venues. Bright rooms with windows that faced the mountains. Small gardens with brick paths and string lights. We would leave with brochures and hopeful notes. Then her mom began calling places to ask about details. Soon, the venues we liked were suddenly booked on our date. At first, we brushed it off. Wedding season, right? But it kept happening. When a coordinator slipped and mentioned her mom's name on one of the holds, the picture came into focus. I told Emily what I'd learned. She looked down at her hands, and "She's trying to help," she said. "Help would be asking what we want," I said. "This is control." She didn't argue, but she didn't push back on her family either. That part stung. I wasn't angry with her. I could see how deep the ties ran. They had shaped everything. Where she studied, where she lived, even the car she drove. It wasn't just input. It was a leash. I tried to keep planning. We sketched out a guest list and picked a simple menu. We decided on a small band that played old love songs and a few of our favorites from college. Every step forward met a soft wall. Her mom questioned the table settings. Her dad sent spreadsheets with cost-saving suggestions that replaced our band with a playlist he curated himself. Emily would win one small debate, then give up two larger ones. Each call left her with red eyes and pressed lips. There were sweet moments, too. On quiet nights, we sat on the floor with takeout and watched videos of first dances. She rested her head on my shoulder and traced the edge of my palm with her finger. "I want that," she whispered. I believed her. I still do. But the noise grew. The jokes about our budget. The hints about pushing the date. The accidental double bookings. I started to feel like a guest at my own wedding, watching strangers rearrange our plans like furniture. One afternoon, after a string of venue calls that went nowhere, I asked Emily if we could set a boundary. "Let's pick one planner," I said, "and tell everyone to go through them. No more surprise calls. No more changes without us." She nodded. "I'll talk to them." I waited for the talk to happen. Days passed. A week. The calls kept coming. When I asked how it went, she said, "They're just excited." The word felt small compared to the mess we were stepping through. Things began to shift when her older sister, Claire, got involved. Claire was the family's golden child, confident, well-spoken, always the one their parents held up as an example. Emily loved her, but I'd noticed how quickly she folded when Claire gave advice. So when she showed up at our apartment one evening, I knew something was brewing. She came in carrying a bottle of wine and that familiar air of polite concern. "Just wanted to check in before the big day," she said, glancing around like she was taking inventory. "You know, Mom and Dad think things are moving fast. Maybe you should take a step back, breathe a little." I set 2 glasses on the counter. "We've been engaged for 6 months. I think we've breathed plenty." Claire smiled, not in a kind way. "Suit yourself. Just remember, weddings show people's true sides." It hung in the air like a warning. After she left, Emily sat at the kitchen table, rubbing her temples. "She means well. She just wants this to fall apart," I said. "You know it, and so do I." She didn't argue, but her silence said enough. 2 weeks later, our caterer called to confirm a cancellation. I thought it was a mistake, until they read out an email I had sent. Someone had made a fake account under my name, canceling the entire order. I stared at the phone for a long time before calling Emily. She rushed home, panicked. We combed through emails and payment receipts. Everything tied back to that fake account. I didn't have proof, but I didn't need it. There was only one person with the motivation and access, her mother. When I called to confront her, she sounded shocked. "Oh dear, how awful. You really should let us handle those things next time." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I sat across from Emily on the couch. If this keeps happening, I said quietly, I'm walking away. I can't marry into a family that treats me like a mistake. Her eyes filled. I'll talk to them. I swear. But I'd heard promises like that before. They never changed anything. From there, the sabotage became open warfare. Her parents told relatives they weren't attending. Some cousins texted Emily saying they'd heard the wedding was on hold. Vendors we'd booked started reaching out, asking for confirmation that events were still on. Every new message was a reminder of how little control we had. Emily started losing sleep. She'd wake up at 3 a.m. to another voicemail from her mom, or a text filled with concerns about finances, timing, or my supposed lack of ambition. I'd find her sitting on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Why are they doing this? She asked one night, voice breaking. Because they can't stand that you're building a life they don't control, I said. And because I'm not the man they would have chosen. We sat there in silence for a long time. I held her hand, but I could feel her slipping further away, not because she didn't love me, but because the pressure from her family was crushing her. We tried to push through, sent the invitations, finalized the band, paid deposits again, but it all felt fragile, like one more blow could send it collapsing. Every time her phone buzzed, I saw the tension tighten in her shoulders. Every time I brought up boundaries, she said she'd handle it, but nothing changed. It wasn't just our wedding on the line anymore. It was our future. I started to wonder if love could survive when one side had to fight the other's family every single day. It happened late one night, the moment everything finally cracked. I had just finished cleaning up after dinner when I heard her voice from the bedroom. It was low, strained, and almost breaking. I paused in the hallway and realized she was on the phone. I don't know what to do, she whispered. They keep fighting, and I can't take it anymore. There was a pause, then her mother's voice, cold and steady. Sweetheart, you don't have to marry him. We can fix this. Those words hit harder than anything before. It wasn't about helping. It was about control, and now they were making their move. I stood there for a moment, frozen in the quiet hum of the apartment. I didn't want to overhear more. I didn't need to. The message was clear. They weren't just trying to sabotage our wedding. They wanted to destroy us. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how every step toward our future had been met with resistance. I'd spent months defending myself against people who never gave me a chance. And now, I wasn't sure if Emily was still fighting beside me, or giving in to them. The next morning, I brewed coffee for both of us, though I didn't drink mine. She sat across the table, and I took a deep breath. Emily, I said quietly, I heard your call last night. She froze, cup halfway to her lips. You listened? I didn't mean to, but I need to know where we stand. Are you with me, or with them? Her eyes filled instantly. I love you, she said, but I can't keep fighting everyone. Every day, they tell me you'll ruin my life, that you'll hold me back, that I'll regret this. I nodded slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. So what do you believe? She hesitated, looked down. The silence stretched long enough to answer the question for her. And in that moment, I realized something I'd been trying to avoid. The woman I loved was still trapped in her parents' cage. They'd built it around her long before I came along. I couldn't break her out. She had to walk out herself. I reached for her hand, then stopped halfway. I've tried, Emily. I've done everything I can to show them I'm not their enemy. But I can't keep living like this. I can't build a marriage where every decision is a battlefield. Her eyes widened. What are you saying? I'm saying we're not ready for this. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Please, don't say that. They'll calm down after the wedding. It'll get better. But I'd heard that before, every time they crossed a line. And every time, nothing changed. I stood up slowly, my chest tight. If you can't stand with me now, you won't stand with me later. Marriage doesn't fix what's broken before it starts. She reached out, but I stepped back. I couldn't keep asking her to choose, not when she already had. I'm not doing this anymore, I said softly. Not like this. She stared at me like she couldn't believe I meant it. Maybe part of me couldn't either. But love without loyalty isn't love. It's just hope trying to survive in a place it can't grow. I turned toward the door, knowing that leaving might hurt more than staying, but staying would destroy both of us. She followed me to the door, tears streaking down her face. Please, just give it time, she begged. They'll calm down once the ceremony's over. They always do this, they'll get over it. I wanted to believe her, but promises like that had started to sound like background noise, soft, familiar, and empty. I grabbed a small bag, stuffed in a few clothes, and left for my brother's place across town. The night air felt heavy, but for the first time in months, it was quiet. The next few days were slow. I tried to focus on work, on anything that didn't remind me of how close we'd been to forever. A week went by, then two. No texts, no calls, Nothing from Emily. I told myself she needed space. Or maybe she'd finally made her choice. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang. The name made my stomach tighten. Claire. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. Hello. Her tone was smooth, practiced. Guess you finally got the message, she said. Mom and Dad were never going to let that wedding happen. I took a slow breath. They got what they wanted. You happy now? Oh, we're relieved, she said. You were always a project, not a partner. Emily deserves someone who fits. Fits what? I asked, my voice low. She paused for a moment too long. Forget it, she said quickly. But I didn't forget. That single word, fits, echoed in my head for days. It wasn't random, like something they'd been saying behind closed doors. A few days later, I got a message from a mutual friend, someone Emily had grown up with. He'd heard the rumors, the whispers spreading back in her hometown. Her parents had been pushing her toward another man, a family friend's son. Old money, polished manners, the kind of man they'd always pictured standing beside their daughter. The pieces started falling into place. The delays, the jokes about waiting, the cancellations, the fake email. They hadn't just wanted to stop our wedding. They wanted to replace it. When I called Emily to ask if it was true, her voice cracked. They mentioned him, yes. But it's not what you think. Not what I think. I asked. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like they fought tooth and nail to keep you from marrying me, and now I know why. I didn't agree to anything, she said quietly. I told them I love you. Love doesn't mean much if they're running your life, I replied. And if you let them? The silence that followed was heavy. I could hear her crying softly, but for the first time, I didn't reach out to comfort her. I couldn't. Not when everything we'd built had been treated like a game by the people closest to her. I spent that night sitting on my brother's porch, looking out over the quiet street, thinking about how love can feel so solid, until outside voices start chipping away at it piece by piece. This wasn't the ending I wanted. I never imagined walking away from her. But I also never imagined marrying into a family that saw me as a placeholder. I didn't hate them, not even Claire. I just couldn't fight an entire household for the rest of my life. The next morning, I made a decision. If Emily ever truly wanted a life with me, she'd have to show it, not with words, but with choices. Until then, I was done being the one who fought alone. When I saw her name flash on my phone again a few days later, I didn't answer. I'd already said everything that needed saying. Still, she showed up at my brother's door that evening. Eyes red, face pale, holding onto the strap of her purse like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Can we talk? She asked softly. We sat outside, the sky dimming into dusk. She looked small, like she'd been carrying too much for too long. I told them about him, she said. I told them I'm not interested. I told them to stop. I nodded. That's good. But Emily, it's not just about him. It's about you. About whether you're ready to choose a life without their approval stamped on every decision. She stared at the ground. I don't know how to do that. They've always been there, controlling everything. It's all I've known. I get that, I said quietly. But I can't build a future inside someone else's boundaries. I need a partner who stands with me, not one who asks permission to love me. She wiped her eyes, voice cracking. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I just thought if I kept the peace, they'd stop. They never were going to, I said. People like that don't stop until they've picked your life for you. She cried harder, whispering, please, just wait for me. I'll figure it out. I shook my head gently. I'm not angry anymore, but I can't stay in the middle of this storm. Until you choose us over them, I'm done. Her face fell. So that's it. That's it. I left the next morning. No dramatic goodbye, no lingering messages. Just distance. Enough for both of us to see things clearly. Months passed. I threw myself into work, old hobbies, and long walks through quiet streets. Therapy helped, too. It gave me words for what I'd been feeling: exhaustion, resentment, grief. Slowly, I began to feel like myself again. The noise faded. The what-ifs stopped haunting every night. Then, one cold December morning, she showed up at my office. She looked different, older, quieter. She held out an envelope. I'm not here to win you back, she said. I just wanted you to have this. I opened it after she left. Inside was a handwritten letter. Her words were shaky but honest. You were right. They never wanted me to think for myself. I said no to the man they chose. I moved out. I started therapy. I'm learning to make choices for myself. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know I finally see what you saw all along. I folded the letter carefully. When she came back a week later to ask if we could start over, I looked her in the eyes and told her the truth. I'm proud of you, I said. You did something brave. But I've moved on. Tears filled her eyes. I ruined everything, didn't I? I nodded gently. No, they did. You just let them. She didn't argue. She just nodded, whispered goodbye, and walked away. That was the last time I saw her. Looking back, I don't regret loving her. What I regret is thinking love alone could fix what respect had already broken. Sometimes, the hardest lesson is that family can be the villain, not out of hate, but control. And that love, no matter how strong, can't survive when one person is forced to stand alone. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.